Douglas Ross.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. As we've heard from a number of speakers today, SNP politicians in this House are regular contributors in this chamber, in our committees. But only a couple of times a year do they get to set the title of the debate, to lead the narrative, to say where the focus should be in this chamber. And today, yet again, they focus on independence. Not health in Scotland, not education, not on our recovery or rebuilding after this pandemic, but on independence. And in 25 minutes from the Honourable Gentleman for Edinburgh East, we didn't hear anything positive about Scotland's future. We didn't hear how the SNP plan to rebuild after a pandemic, how to get our country back up and running again after 12 months of such great sacrifices from people across the country. No, we heard about separation and independence. And I think that is unforgivable from the SNP to yet again prioritise their own party's priorities rather than Scotland's priorities. And in these debates, I always like to look at what individuals have said so far in the debate. And it was very telling, and I've asked my office to check what the Honourable Gentleman for Edinburgh East said about a referendum in the next year. He said, "I don't speculate if it's the end of this year or the beginning of next year." So for the Honourable Gentleman for Edinburgh East, he's saying to the people of Scotland that his view from these benches and from the SNP, we could have a referendum in maybe December or maybe January, but certainly within the next 12 months, the plan for the SNP is to take our country through that disruptive referendum process all over again. Not rebuild Scotland, not focus on the jobs that have been lost, not focus on getting our health service back up and running again, protecting people and protecting livelihoods. His focus, the SNP focus in the next year, is more division, another referendum. I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
I feel I need to intervene, Madam Deputy Speaker, because a number of colleagues appear to be having some difficulty with understanding what we mean when we say we do not want to have a referendum campaign until after the pandemic is finished. That's quite simple, is it not? The problem is we don't know when the pandemic will end, but we hope it will end soon. But as soon as it ends, then we will move on to having a referendum campaign. And I would hope that people can acknowledge that. I don't know exactly what the date will be because it's contingent on what happens with COVID-19. None of us do. But as soon as it is out of the way, then we move on. And of course, the referendum campaign, I hope you will acknowledge this, the whole point of independence is not to have it for its own sake. It's in order to improve in all of the areas that the Honourable Gentleman is talking about.
It is incredible that the SNP position is somehow this pandemic will be over with a flick of a switch and lives will not continue to be destroyed because of what we have been through for the last 12 months. People are still losing their lives in Scotland. Don't do that, Mr Sheppard. That is unacceptable in a debate when we are speaking about people losing their lives and losing their jobs. You're animated in such a way that you don't care about that. Well, I care about Scotland. I care about Scotland's recovery, and the reckless approach from the SNP to have another referendum within the next year shows everyone in Scotland where your priorities are, and they do not lie with the people of Scotland. Another thing the Honourable Gentleman for Edinburgh East said that once in a generation was a tagline. It's now turned into a tagline. And he went on to say, I paraphrase slightly, that it was used to dupe pro-independence supporters to vote for them. But it was in the White Paper, Madam Deputy Speaker. It was written in the White Paper, the foreword signed by the former leader of the SNP. Therefore, what else in the White Paper was just used to dupe people? I think pretty much everything, but we've now heard from the SNP benches that their prospectus for an independent Scotland was based on putting information in there to dupe people into voting that way. And I also like to comment on a statement made from the Labour front bench. And I think this may be the first time we've heard this from the opposition in this House, and I think it is very welcome. But the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland for Labour praised the vaccine rollout and COVID support. It is encouraging on these benches to hear the Labour Party finally recognising that the UK Conservative Government's vaccine programme and the furlough support, the self-employed income support, the support for businesses and jobs up and down Scotland has been such a roaring success both north of the border and every other part of the United Kingdom, and I'm extremely encouraged to hear that. What we haven't heard, though, and we still have the lead spokesperson for the SNP today, we have their current temporary chief whip, and we have another spokesperson for the SNP, we have not heard anything about a currency for an independent Scotland. borders in an independent Scotland, what it would mean for our armed forces in Scotland. So I again make the invitation to honourable gentlemen opposite to see what is the plans from the SNP for an independent Scotland, for a currency, for our armed forces, for a border. Anything? Nothing. The SNP wanted this debate to speak about independence, but when you ask them about independence, they are silent. That is not an approach to take to the people of Scotland. So I say, Madam Deputy Speaker, we can stop the SNP. We can halt their plans for another divisive independence referendum, and we can get the Scottish Parliament 100% laser-focused on our recovery from this pandemic. People can do that by using both their votes for the Scottish Conservatives in May's election, so we can end the division over another referendum, we can focus on our recovery, and we can rebuild Scotland. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.